And one of our viewers, Pierre Jones, says, "Did Black Lives Matter or any rappers address the shooting deaths in New York City and Chicago over the weekend? Once again, the influence. Did they come out and say anything about that whole situation?" Gianno, I know you're from Chicago. I know this is something that you're very passionate about. 15 people in Chicago at a funeral after a drive-by shooting, get shot during the drive-by shooting last night. And yeah, I mean, it should get a little bit more coverage.
We had a special on Fox News Channel this past Sunday called The Fight for America. I encourage people to go to my Instagram at Gianno Caldwell to check out the segment that I was in for it. Bro, my heart bleeds every time I see what's going on in the city of Chicago. You're talking about over 60 people, over 50 people shot. I think it hit over 60. 4th of July weekend, over 80 people shot. And the numbers just continue time and time again. My little brother, Memorial Day weekend 3 years ago, was in a car with two of his friends when two men walked up and shot the car 25 times. He lived, thankfully, but his best friend died in his arms. The situation in Chicago is very, very real. And the leadership in Chicago, whether it be Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Rahm Emanuel, they lost and failed the people of the city of Chicago.
How?
How? Because we got Black bodies that are literally in the streets of Chicago.
What are they not doing that they failed?
What are they not doing by, in Rahm Emanuel's case, he handcuffed the police from doing their job. That was one thing. The second thing is, if you're coming in after Rahm Emanuel's tenure, which Lori Lightfoot did, you should have a plan that you're ready to execute, especially as a former federal prosecutor. She was, because she's never been in elected office. You should have a plan that you're really looking to execute take the guns off the street. Two, for those who are committing these crimes, they need really tough sentences. They passed a bill on bail reform in Cook County, which is great. I'm all for bail reform. If you've done a petty crime, why are you sitting in jail for 6 months, a year, or more? It makes no sense. But if you've done something real, like taking someone's life, how are you getting out of jail so early? It makes no sense to me. Some of these policies, which I recognize are more kind of the liberal feel good and we want criminal justice reform, but not everybody deserves to get out of jail. People are literally shooting 1-year-olds, 3-year-olds, senior citizens. When I was growing up in Chicago, the people that got shot were usually either gang members or they were affiliated. If you shot a kid, the streets was after you. I saw something on T.I.'s Instagram, I think it was last week or the week before, when that baby got shot in Atlanta.
Yep.
They were on there on his Instagram saying, we coming for you. The streets are gonna turn you in. It doesn't happen in Chicago.
So how do we get to the youth that's doing this, Gianno? That's what I want. That's what I want to know. How do we get to them? You know what I mean? Because it's up to us, the older guys, to get to them, to go in the hoods and talk to them young soldiers like, yo, people, out, man, what you doing? So how do we get to them? Because listen, man, the white man might be putting the gun in the hood, but they're not. The black man is picking up the gun and shooting it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So how do we get to them, brother?
So there's a few different things actually that happened in the city of Chicago, which changed the dynamic and made it such a violent city. One, there was a guy by the name of Philip Jackson. He was the CEO of the Chicago Housing Authority. He came up with a plan to tear down the project. So at one time, the violence was really concentrated in the areas where the projects were. They tore down the projects and they spread people all across the city. So then you had pockets of violence. So the same people that were in those projects began to recruit, bring in different people. Second thing, a lot of times people allude, and Kanye West actually mentioned this in his visit to the White House with President Trump when he was trying to get Larry Hoover, who was the founder of the Gangster Disciples, out of jail. He was saying, hey, you need to pardon Larry Hoover and get him out of jail. When they locked up all the big gangsters, the ones that were running the streets, the young folks, it created a vacuum. The young folks didn't have any leadership, and they just started doing their thing and just going after people. So the violence really spread. So how do you sustain what's going on in Chicago, and how do you stop the violence? You're going to need tougher penalties for those who are committing these crimes. The second thing, you need to start working with the police. People need to start actually talking to the police and letting them know who's doing the crimes. Because back when I was growing up, you didn't talk to the police because, again, you didn't want the harm to come your way. And the streets would take care of those who might have harmed the bystanders. Now it could be your grandmother to get shot.
But
you need to start talking to the police.
But let me say this, because we're really contradicting ourselves then when we say Joe Biden put in a harsh crime bill, and then you're saying, we shouldn't care about that bill, but then you're saying we should put stiffer penalties like what Joe Biden did with the crime bill. So
let me specify. Let me specify two things. One, the 86 crack laws, which Joe Biden was the architect of, created a tougher penalty for those who used or sold crack cocaine versus those who were doing powder. So obviously powder, coke, white folks were more so in that business. They got off a lot easier than the black folks that were doing crack. So that created a racial injustice. The 94 crime bill, people getting locked up for marijuana and cannabis use, which we know we got a bunch in the state of California, is legal. And a number of other places, Illinois, legal, recreational use. And in other parts of the country, they're just giving out tickets for it. So why are you going to be trying to put people in jail or accounted as a 3 strike for cannabis when that's not like some hard drug? Like, you're not doing anything that's going to endanger the life, or maybe you're not, that maybe will endanger the life of a person. In addition to that, the 94 crime bill.
But Gianna, we still getting off track. I mean, it's the whole thing. I understand. We still like we can go for days.
We can. I mean, I was just answering the question.
Done wrong or right and whatnot. But if you're in a neighborhood right now and you see a little kid get shot, like last night they was talking about here in Atlanta, they had a drive-by shooting in Atlanta. 2 people got shot. And what stood out to me is that one of the spokespeople from the police department was basically saying, hey, you know what? We got a lot of witnesses out here, but nobody's cooperating.
Mike, can I ask one thing? Because it's the way we look at, crossing the blue line. How crossing the blue line is very dangerous and can cost you your life. And that's why police officers don't do it, even though we know they should. It's the same thing for the community. I'm not making an excuse or giving it out. It's just hard to really know how intricate relationships are in the streets. And you tell on somebody, so-and-so knows so-and-so, and it comes back on you. So it's understandable why people wouldn't be.
I understand, and I get that, because you don't want to put yourself or your family in danger. But they got,
and sometimes the police are involved, like Larry Davis. You know what I mean?
But that's the point.
A little anonymous tip, but
But that's exactly the point I made in terms of Chicago. If you don't tell, your family could be next. You know what I mean? Like it back in the day, that was obviously a way of going about it in our communities. Like, you kept your mouth shut. The gang members dealt with who they were going to deal with. But now, if you're shooting 1-year-old babies, then what's the excuse? Like, you have to talk to the police. You have to work with them. There's no other way now. Like, there's legitimately no other way. Call it snitching or not. I have a documentary on Fox Nation called The New Battle for Chicago, and I encourage everyone to go and look at it. And I was talking to these guys, the ones that were actually perpetrating the violence, the ones who told me, if you want to be the man, you're going to have to kill somebody, like literally on camera, and didn't care about who knew. Yeah. There's no conscience. They're not afraid of the police. So at this point, I'm going to have to protect myself and my family. If I know who did it, I'm going to try to get the most trustworthy officer or put in an anonymous whatever, but someone has to know, because my family legitimately could be next, and I can't have that.
Babies are different. And I mean like this. Where I came from and how I grew up is that if you killed the baby, the homie's gonna go talk to you and say, peep this out. Either you gonna go turn yourself in, or we gonna handle you. Plain and simple. So, so that's not snitching.
Okay.
You gonna go turn yourself in.
That's not snitching.
Or we gonna handle you. You know what I'm saying? Because you killed that baby. You know what I mean? So that's all I got to say.
That's when the streets was organized.
Right.
Yeah, organized, and there was a level of respect.
Well,
OGs was actually respected.
Maybe rappers can do that too, because they talk about street justice a lot of times when it comes to George Zimmerman and people like that. You got killers that might be running around among them as well, that they need to get off the street as well. That's killing innocent Black people. We got to stop doing that as well. All right, we got to take another break, man. We're going to be back with Gianno Caldwell and Hakeem Green. We're going to get into a couple of these headlines right after this. Back on the Mike and Donny show on Fox Soul. Mike Hill, my man Donny Harrell, talking to political commentator Gianno Caldwell, and of course, hip hop connoisseur Hakeem Green. Let's get into some headlines real quick because we were talking about Chicago. You know, feds right now, unmarked vans throwing protesters in jail on the streets of Portland. Now Trump talking about doing the same thing, sending the feds in the cities like Chicago. You just talked about your Mayor Lightfoot. She ain't a part of that whole situation, man. How you feel about it?
In 2017, Trump put out a tweet saying, if Chicago doesn't fix the carnage, I'll send the feds. And we had after that, I had a viral hit on that same tweet when I was saying, bro, you're from Evanston. A guy was trying to debate me on the politics of Chicago and he was from somewhere else. But interestingly enough, we hadn't seen any action from the feds. We seen, I think they sent maybe a dozen people there, and one of the ATF agents got shot. That was some years back. Now they're sending out more of a cadre of 200 federal agents. And I think that for the local elected officials, and more often than not, some of them have said that it's out of control. The mayor doesn't have a handle on it. If I'm the mayor, forget the politics of it all, which, people obviously don't want to work with Trump and he's bashed these democratically ran cities. But if I'm the mayor, I'm going to say, listen, I'm willing to work with the federal government. Here are my guidelines and working with them, which I know she's done to a degree, but you're going to have to really accept these federal resources because you have people who are literally dying on your streets every weekend. For me in Chicago, and I respect COVID and it's a very serious issue, but this is a real pandemic. Kanye West said in the song, and Murder to Excellence, is it genocide? Because we got Black folks killing each other on a daily basis. And bruh, I'm so concerned about my own family's well-being. Because a lot of them still live in Chicago in these neighborhoods that aren't really that safe. And honestly speaking, I was just in Chicago. None of it's really safe. Downtown, there's shootings. People there's
but it's in a lot of urban cities. I mean, Akeem, you in New York, Donnie, we're in LA or whatnot is happening with the feds coming in. All of a sudden we get an authority.
It's not the same though. It's not the same.
Here's the thing. If the mayor is not asking for it right now, maybe you shouldn't have it or whatnot. And plus the treatment. We're talking about police brutality and the treatment of these federal agents coming in here, just throwing protesters, innocent people. I'm not talking about the people who I haven't seen them grab one person that shot one person yet. I'm looking in Portland at protesters that they're throwing off the street. So I'm more concerned about what they're going to do to some innocent brothers on the streets of Chicago than I am about the violence, because I haven't seen them going to get one killer yet.
Amen. Amen. And
yes.
You would think that with a conservative administration, the last thing you wanted to be doing is using federal agents to go and deal with local matters. It just seems a little the irony of it all.
Authoritarian, ain't it?
Yeah,
it's very authoritarian.
Government.
Yeah,
that just shows you they don't care about peace. You know what I mean? They don't want the peacefulness. They because like Mike said, you ain't going to get the killer, but you're going to get a peaceful protester. So they want the violence. It seems like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, but more people have died in Chicago than Iraq and Afghanistan. The leadership has failed. When is it appropriate for leadership to step in? Yeah, the president, I get it. Nobody likes Trump. But if it would have been another leader, people would be like, you know what? Let's welcome in this help. So at some point we got to discern between what's political and what's policy.
The violence in Chicago goes back like to the 30s and the 40s. Yes. Like there were. I'm not from Chicago, so I don't want to stick my head in where I get it. But like to understand why Chicago is the way it is not about Lori Lightfoot or Rahm Emanuel.
Yep.
Though, you can have your opinions on how they ran their administrations, but these problems are systemic problems that go back decades. Predate them. So if we're not going to look at it from that, you're not going to fix it.